What up, guys? My name is Aaron Parker. I drive a 1993 Mazda RX-7, and I compete in a Formula Drift Pro-Am sanctioned series called Top Drift. Today, I just wanted to go over a couple setup tips for wiring a basic drift car and or Pro-Am car, just to help keep things sorted, easy for maintenance, and safe. So the biggest part of any wiring job is pretty much planning. So for me, that meant writing everything out on a piece of paper that I wanted the car to do without having to hit switches or do anything manually. So everything's going to be controlled by the ECU as much as possible. And then for maintenance wise, physically, I wanted everything in one spot. So I've made this control board which bolts in and out of the car with 3 fasteners, and it just makes life easier for the future maintenance and having everything in one spot. Alright, so the whole idea behind this whole setup was to have the ECU Adaptronic M2000 control everything possible. Funny story about that with switches. So I was helping a Formula Drift Pro 1 car get set up and everything. You know, we're doing some minor tuning and calibration. I'm sitting in the driver's seat and I'm just getting the car idling and everything. And you know, the owner runs over to me and is like, "Dude, turn on the cooling fans, car's overheating." And I look over and, you know, sure enough, the car's getting up there like 220. And I'm like, "Dude, what the hell? Like, why do you have a $100,000 car and I have to turn on a switch to actually trigger the cooling fans?" Like, a race car, that function is supposed to be just that function. Like, so you don't want to have to get into the car and think about anything other than driving. Like, there's so much going on in a drift car that there's no reason to cloud your thinking space with dumb things like switches. So I'm really against switches. Yeah, they're cool when you first start, but really you don't want stuff like that because it's just another thing to think about. So with this ECU and this setup, the whole idea behind it was to have it all automated. So back here I have a panel mounted just to the rear bin here, and it houses 3 relays and 4 fuses. The 4th fuse is just a spare, but all 3 relays control 1 for each fuel pump, 1 lift, and 2 main Bosch 044s. Alright, so this is where I mounted my battery in the rear bin here, just behind the seat. I'll probably install the seat later. But it's an Optima Blue Top Marine Deep Cycle starting battery. The reason I went with this battery is just because I hated having like starting issues, and the whole Deep Cycle Marine to me just means more reliable. This mount is pretty cheap. I think I probably picked it up on eBay. It sucks, don't buy it, because the terminal's so close to this top mount thing that anytime you're working on the car and it touches it, it just arcs and, you know, throws sparks everywhere. So try to get something that doesn't have metal strapping across the whole thing to where you could, you know, touch it back and forth and mess stuff up. Alright, so this is the AEM CD7 digital dash display. Its sole purpose is to display all information that the Adaptronic is putting out. So I mounted my Innovate MTXL wideband sensor just here at the bottom of the dash because I don't necessarily need to see it all the time because my digital dash will display the wideband, but it's fed into the Adaptronic, the M2000 here, and I mounted it right there because it's easy to get to if I have to for some reason change it out. And I have the spare wideband down here just for calibration because rotaries are 2 strokes and sometimes they eat up sensors. So Bosch 4.9 has been pretty good, but you always just want to have one just in case. You never know with track cars. Switch when I'm working on the car, I obviously turn it off. When the car's running, it's on. Its sole purpose is just for battery power. It can be used as a kill switch, but in this car it's not used as a kill switch. I actually have an additional switch which you need for tech, and it's outside of the car, so let's go check that out. Okay, so outside of the car, on the passenger side firewall or fender well, you have emergency battery cutoff switch, and this switch pretty much controls all power to the car. If there were to be something that happens, like emergency or whatever, tech official can come over and I'll have like little labels here on and off, and then you just switch it off and the car will die. Alright, so you have master battery cutoff switch, that's on. Emergency kill switch on the outside of the car, that's on as well. I have my ignition switch, turns on the board. Super Wow Factory, go get yours, it's dope. On ECU controls everything, primes the fuel pumps, dash is on, and then starter. Alright guys, so that concludes the wiring overview with the car. Again, I was going for simplicity, accessibility, and control, with the ECU controlling everything that it should, kind of like an OEM car. That way you can just get in the car, drive, go have fun, and not have to worry about all these extra little switches that control fans and this and that to do work on the car or whatever. If you have any questions, whatever, comment below or DM me, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, answer all your questions as best as I can.